Starmer stands firm as Trump threatens UK economy over shock Greenland ultimatum. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has entered a high-stakes diplomatic standoff that could reshape the United Kingdom's economic future. As tensions reach a breaking point over unprecedented trade threats from the White House, Starmer is making a definitive stand that has sent shockwaves through Westminster and beyond. This report covers the urgent developments regarding the proposed 10% tariffs on British goods and the controversial golden era shift in UK-China relations. We break down exactly how these international power moves will impact your cost of living and the stability of the British economy in 2026. Thumbnail text: Starmer defies Trump. Thumbnail prompt: a cinematic, high-contrast shot of Keir Starmer standing at a Downing Street podium under a dramatic spotlight looking resolute. In the background, a blurred, looming image of Donald Trump and a map of the North Atlantic. Breaking news banners in red and white with UK emergency visible at the bottom. The United Kingdom is currently locked in one of the most volatile diplomatic standoffs of the decade, as Prime Minister Keir Starmer declares he will not yield to unprecedented pressure from the United States. The tension reached a boiling point following a direct ultimatum involving the status of Greenland and a looming threat of a 10% tariff on all British exports. While the global stage watches with bated breath, the Prime Minister has taken a remarkably forceful tone in the House of Commons, signaling a sharp departure from his previously cautious diplomacy. This hardening of rhetoric comes at a critical moment for the British economy, as the threat of a trade war with Washington looms over key sectors, including the automotive, steel, and aerospace industries. The stakes have never been higher for the current administration, as it attempts to balance national sovereignty against the crushing weight of global economic sanctions. In a move that has stunned both allies and critics, the Prime Minister is hosting the Danish leader in London today to form a united front against external territorial ambitions. This high-level meeting is a direct response to suggestions that international law could be bypassed in the High North, a region that has suddenly become the epicenter of a new geopolitical Cold War. Starmer has been unequivocal in his stance, stating that the future of any territory belongs solely to its people, and calling the use of economic blackmail against NATO allies completely wrong. However, the domestic pressure is mounting as political rivals accuse the government of failing to maintain the special relationship, leaving the UK vulnerable to financial retaliation that could devastate household budgets across the country. The situation is further complicated by a massive shift in Britain's Eastern policy, with reports confirming that Starmer is preparing for a landmark visit to Beijing next week. This move is being framed as a revival of the golden era of business ties, aimed at securing alternative trade routes and investment as relations with the United States sour. The Prime Minister is expected to lead a delegation of the UK's most powerful chief executives, representing giants in pharmaceuticals, energy, and banking, to restart high-level dialogue that has been frozen for nearly a decade. This pivot toward China is seen by many as a calculated gamble to offset the potential damage of American tariffs, but it has already sparked a fierce backlash in Parliament over national security concerns. Adding fuel to the fire is the controversial approval of a new, massive embassy in the heart of London, a decision that has polarized the cabinet and led to threats of legal action from local residents. Critics argue that opening the door to increased foreign influence while simultaneously feuding with the nation's oldest ally is a recipe for disaster. Security chiefs have reportedly given the green light, claiming risks can be managed, but the timing of the approval, just days before the Beijing summit, has led to accusations of a quid pro quo arrangement. The Prime Minister maintains that these moves are essential for national renewal and for ensuring that the UK is not left isolated in an increasingly fractured global market. At home, the government is desperately trying to pivot the conversation back to the cost of living, insisting that these international maneuvers are directly linked to the price of goods on British shelves. Starmer has told his cabinet that 2026 is the year the country must turn the corner, but with local and devolved elections approaching in May, the public's patience is wearing thin. The administration is betting everything on the idea that pragmatic partnership and a refusal to engage in gesture politics will eventually lead to stability. Yet, as the February deadline for the implementation of U.S. tariffs fast approaches, the window for a diplomatic solution is closing. The atmosphere in Westminster is described as electric, with emergency summits scheduled and military advisors reviewing the implications of the deteriorating security situation in the Arctic. The Prime Minister's defiant "we will not yield" speech is being analyzed globally as a defining moment of his premiership. Whether this resolve will lead to a successful defense of British interests or an economic isolation remains the defining question of the hour. For now, the United Kingdom finds itself at a historic crossroads, forced to choose between traditional alliances and a new, uncertain path in a world where the old rules of diplomacy no longer seem to apply.